Welcome, Wargamers. This is Doug with 2+ Stuff, and today we're doing something a little bit different. This is a new series I want to start called While You're Reforging, and it's going to just be kind of hobby talk. Truth of the matter is, I would love to one day do a podcast. Unfortunately, there just requires commitments and time that I can't regularly do, and so consistency is a big deal for me going into 2018. So this is something I can do. It's going to be podcast-ish, where I talk about things that I'm working on, games played, and then just go through a couple hobby topics, including Q&A. So if you have a question for me, it can be personal, about business, it could be about gaming, opinions, whatever, go ahead, click subscribe, and leave it in the comments down below. When I go to do my next one, I'll just go through this video, get all the comments to the questions that were asked that are appropriate and relevant, and so compile them and put them into the next video. And while I'm talking, I'm going to be working on something as well. Today I am building some Chaos Knights. Pretty excited about these guys. We'll get to what they're for here in a little bit. So let's start with a few things. I have a few questions that people have asked me, and I'm going to kind of do some B-roll in here as I go through this. This is very new for me, so please forgive me. It's a lot of work to set up the backdrop and things like that where I did my videos before. I live in a tiny one-bedroom apartment, so this is something I can do very easily and get you more consistent stuff out there, so it's good. Thinking about getting a new webcam. If you know of a better webcam than the built-in one in my iMac, leave a link for that. I like to check it out. But let's be honest, the point of this show is basically to have something to listen to while you do your hobby, just like I'm doing. And so video I don't think is nearly as important as audio, which I have my little mic here and I love it. So I'm going to start off by getting some guys off the sprue and answering the first question that I was given. I was actually asked this pretty recently, and someone just kind of wanted to know how I got into the hobby. It was asked through the YouTube Messenger, not necessarily as a comment. And so I will tell you. And so back in the year 2011, I had just gotten married, and I was looking for a hobby, something to do just to fill my time. I wasn't just bored all the time. And I looking for something cheap, something I could do on my own or with people. I'm kind of an introvert by nature, and so I was looking around, and one of the things that shows up on just a big list of various hobbies is modeling. And so I remembered when I was a kid, I used to love building models, particularly World War II vehicles. And as I started looking into modeling, I went to Hobby Lobby, grabbed a World War II German tank kit, was looking for tutorials about how to get really good at that. And actually I found a PDF doc that Mini Wargaming put out. And if you don't know their channel, they're awesome. You should go check them out. With lighting effects and things like that. And I was like, looking at the miniatures they were painting, I was like, man, these are really cool. And they're like, I think there was some, there was Warhammer stuff, but there was a lot of, War Machine hordes. And started looking around at various games and clubs, and I had never thought about painting models and using them as a game piece. I was never a big board gamer, never a big gamer outside of computer games. So I got plugged into a local group. They had a huge War Machine community in Ames, Iowa. So I got plugged in there, and War Machine was the first game that I played. And what I quickly realized with War Machine is that I'm not necessarily opposed to competitive play. I'm really not. I enjoy it. Let me get a little more focused here. But I noticed that I liked themes and thematic things. So if you're familiar with War Machine, I played SIgmar, kind of the generic good guys, always in blue, of course. And I built thematic lists for them where, these are guys who channel lightning. So I would get every guy who channeled lightning or ran robots or did those kind of thematic things. And I just got crushed every single game because the guys in my area were very, very competitive, and the things that worked for my thematic list weren't really that great. And that War Machine's a pretty hardcore, like, there are things that are good and things that are just not good kind of game. I just find that in general, at least my community was that way. And so, yeah, I kind of just lost my interest in that, to be perfectly honest with you. I had a beautifully painted army as my first one. I put a lot of work into it, and then just because people would delete it before I got a chance to really actually play the game, I just got frustrated and stopped. Tried to get into 40k, but 40k, that was back with old GW, who were not the greatest company before they had their revitalization, and it was hard to get people to be on board. In fact, most of the War Machine players there did play 40k, but they just hated it. And so, yeah, I kind of took a break for a while. I kept modeling, but took a break, and then moved to Seattle, Washington after my wife graduated college, looking for a job. And it turns out that there's everyone out here. There's 40k players. There's War Machine was a big one. It's definitely dried up quite a bit out here now. Yeah, which is funny because that's where Privateer Press is located. Not so great. But, yeah, I got very plugged back into the hobby. I did pick up War Machine again, thinking there was more players, diversity. Kind of had the same issue, to be honest. Didn't have the funds to kind of keep up with whatever the meta was. And so took a backseat. And then I just started playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles. Because there was a group up here, and they were really cool guys. Played High Elves. That next year is when the End Time started. Made the transition to Age of Sigmar. And it wasn't a smooth one. I'll talk about that in another video at some point. But it wasn't a smooth transition. And I've been playing 40k on the side-ish sometimes. And AOS primarily since then. And that's it. That's pretty much my hobby biography, I guess. Somebody else asked me, what armies do I currently play now? Obviously, I'm holding Chaos Knights here. Actually, my main army is Stormcast Eternals, and I have played several armies since AOS started. Many of them, actually darn near most of them. Reason is, I change armies like the wind changes direction. I have a friend of the show named Mark who it drives him insane. I don't think he understands it, but he's like a collector. I'm pretty sure he would say hoarder, but whatever. People just like that. And me, I do enjoy every army that I play, and I love painting all different types of models. I also love, there's like a thrill in trading. Maybe it just goes back to like why kids like trading cards, that kind of stuff. Totally enjoy it. And so that's definitely a big thing for me. When I started AOS, I had my High Elves from Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and I definitely stuck with them for a little while. Then I transitioned into... I definitely had Wood Elves at some point, so Wanderers. I've had some Flesh Eater Courts. I had a huge Death Army. Some Warriors of Chaos. I have a Glotkin. I still have my Glotkin. I traded everything else off, but I can't get rid of the Glotkin. And some other cool things. I have some cool models. I played quite a few factions. Had Greenskins for a while. Did fairly well with them. And yeah, I just play around a lot. I decided towards the tail end of 2017, I'm getting kind of tired of the trading thing. Mostly just because my new work schedule, it's getting hard to meet people for trades and things like that locally. And I'm just kind of dubious of the internet when it comes to like mini swap and things like that on Reddit. And so made the decision like, hey, let's just do a few more, get some armies that are very versatile, that you can do a lot of things with. This way your hobby ADD won't take you too far off the beaten path. So that's why I picked Stormcast first, just because they work with everyone with the new ally system, and even before then, just thematically, there's no one who doesn't want an Immortal's help. So that's pretty cool. And then, just recently, I played them for quite a while, actually. I enjoy them. I'll put some pictures up here while I'm talking about them. Painted them up as the Hollowed Knights, and then went back and did some weathering, super heavy weathering, because I want them to be dark. I like dark fantasy stuff. By that I mean, like, that's one of the things that I loved about the old world, is that, like, cities like Mordheim, Nuln, which were described as very soot and dark because they're industry. Like, I love that kind of stuff where it's very, just dark is the word that I can use. And so I wanted to bring that into AOS. My impression of Stormcast in the first year was they're very clean. And, in endless war, nothing is clean. So I wanted to bring that in. And so, yeah. So, but of course, now I'm painting or building Chaos Knights, and so how did that happen? Well, I've had these Stormcast for a while. I really, really enjoy them. The thing is, I have a wandering eye, and I love the epic story between Chaos and order and things like that. And so I wanted to participate. And so my friends and I were all doing a Path to Glory. So we all picked factions that we don't typically play. It doesn't mean you have to buy new models, just something, not your main army. And so I saw a deal on these for Craigslist, and it was a fantastic deal, screaming deal for quite a few Slaves to Darkness stuff. It's actually, the guy had 2 battalions from the Warriors of Chaos, so I have to get new bases for him, but totally worth it. I paid $80 for 2 of those battalion boxes, plus a Lord out of Mana Corps that's unassembled. So that is a screaming deal. Pretty phenomenal. So anyway, I got that army, and so we just rolled off. I picked my leader, so I'm going to do a Sorcerer and a Mana Corps. So I got 3 rolls with that on the Path to Glory book. Spent 1 for followers, got 20 Marauders, and then used 2 for the kind of more elite choices, and so I got 5 Knights. And that's where I am. So I took that big lot that I bought, and through using Path to Glory, I'm going to expand upon that piece by piece, kind of make it a more manageable pace so I don't feel like I have way too many things to paint. And that kind of concludes the armies I have for now, which I had it as a separate category, but I'm just going to dive into there now, as that's hobby progress. So this being the first episode, I can't review what I've just done. I'm just telling you right now what I'm working on. I'm starting with the Knights. I have the Marauders already built. They're on square bases. Sometime I'll get down to the GW shop. I think with this army, I want to do something special. My Stormcast, I bought them already built. And they're on generic bases with a little bit of texture stuff to them. I'm not quite sure what he did, and I like it. But I think with the Chaos, I either want to do like the nice SIgmar bases that they have, or I want to do some actual like basing, like using their texture paints and things like that. I'm not sure which one I want to do yet. As I'm playing Chaos, and the next kind of campaign season seems to be in the Realm of Death, I'm not sure how I like the official like Games Workshop bases for AOS, like I forget what they're called, but the pictures always have Seraphon on them, and they look great with Seraphon, I think. Just with Chaos, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do 20 Marauders of these guys, and then none of our tables really seem to match that kind of aesthetic. I'm kind of on the fence about it, so if you have thoughts to contribute, leave in the comments down below. Other than that, like I said, I have the 5 Knights, the Lord and the Mana Corps. Those have to be built first, and then obviously everything has to be painted. As far as painting goes, my plan anyway is I'm going to keep things pretty generic, like think blacks, bronzes, and things like that. The reason is I'm excited about this Chaos army because I want them to be able to play with any god. As it stands right now, I could pick up the Blades of Khorne, Disciples of Tzeentch, now the Maggotkin of Nurgle, which is on pre-order right now at the time of this video. And I can use them as mortal - whatever god that is and use that army. So that is pretty exciting, and that's actually why I chose Slaves to Darkness in particular. If you have been watching the Star Collecting Box videos, it is actually my favorite box. A lot of people will tell you that the army is crap. They just got rules in the General's Handbook that they're good. They're very thematic. They match a lot of what the Warriors of Chaos did before, in terms of like having heroes that kind of set the tone for the army. But as a soul for Slaves to Darkness is not outstanding by any stretch. But what they are is versatile. And so being able to say, okay, well now I'm taking them as Blades of Khorne. So I take 1,000 points of Slave to Darkness that I have now, throw in some Chaos Demons or set aside points for demons to be summoned in. Same thing for the Disciples of Tzeentch. I mean, they just have cool things in every single one of those books that are designed specifically for these are the mortal dudes of this army. So I just really love that. It's very enticing to me that I can build one army, have 4 battle tomes, and then theoretically 4 battle tomes, because if Slash ever comes out, that's 4 armies, 1 for each Chaos God, and then I have Slave to Darkness by themselves, and then I can also always do whatever the Ever-Chosen has things that include those units as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about them. I know people are kind of crapping all over various factions right now, especially ones that got some we'll say, less than exemplary love in 2017's General Handbook, but I think that they're great. I think they just offer more versatility than any other faction in the game as far as a product lineup. I can buy this faction and be able to use it just about anywhere, and I just love the crap out of that. So now I want to talk about games played. I actually played a game last night with someone who I actually met through doing this show. He saw the YouTube channel, almost a year ago, I guess, and just asked, hey, you live in the area? Do you want to get a game in? I think initially he said he felt creepy just popping up out of nowhere and asking, but I am just as obliging in real life as I am online. And his name's Jack. He's a great guy. So we got together at his place and played a game. It was 1,000 points. So this is before we rolled the Path to Glory thing. I just wanted to put the Warriors of Chaos that I had built on the field and see what they did. And so we played 1,000 versus 1,000 matched play, but we did open war scenarios with open war deck, and had a great time. So I brought, I'll tell you my list here. I brought the Glotkin, which I'll put back on the screen here. Had 2 units of 20 Chaos Marauders. 20 with the 1 unit of 20 had the flails. The other unit had the axes. So they just have some different to hit and to wound profiles. And then I had 4 units of 5 Chaos Warriors. And so that made up my 1,000 points. And so off the top of my mind, I'm trying to remember his list. He took a Slaanesh demons list. Well, not demons, but a Slaanesh list in general. And I know he had 2 units of 5 Chaos Warriors. I know he had 30 Demonettes, which it was literally the night that I put out all that Slaanesh stuff. And so I got even further education on Slaanesh that night after I already put the videos out. Let's see what else he had. He had a Keeper of Secrets and a Demon Prince of Slaanesh. And I think that was it. No, not the Seekers of Slaanesh, but the mortal guys who ride the Seekers. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head because I didn't look at those for the review. Those things, by the way, are money. Okay, just throwing it out there. If you're a Slaanesh player and you watch those videos of mine and you're like, what should I add next? Those things, I can't remember what they're called, but by golly, they're cool. So let's see. The game started off. The deployment was just called Dawn of War. So basically, I take one long table edge, he takes the other, and we have 12 inches of deployment. Pretty standard. You're probably the most standard deployment for gaming. And terrain, we always do the random terrain, stuff like that. It just didn't come up a lot in the game. We actually got quite a few of the sacrifice ones where you can choose to sacrifice a guy and unit gets buffs. It didn't seem like the smart move based on what was going on for either of us, and so we largely just kind of skipped it. Not that we skipped doing it, it's just with the way the battle went and like where most of the action took place, those terrain rules didn't really come up a whole lot. So that's fine. It's fine. I don't care. As far as the actual gameplay, Jack has a great strategy that I love where the Demon Prince of Slaanesh and also the Keeper of Secrets just work so well together, and I wish that I had brought it up. I'm so sad I didn't in the videos, where they kind of just offer like a really big 1-2 punch where the Demon Prince can fly and be super aggressive up front. And the Keeper of Secrets, who only has 10 wounds, but man, he's an anchor compared to the rest of that stuff in the army. Comes up behind him and is doing some really nasty spell casting, and so it was harsh. Trying to think of takeaways. I did lose that game. I got wiped off the table. As far as the scenario and stuff like that, it was the one where every time you destroy an enemy unit, the number of wounds that unit is kind of like your score. So if he kills a 5-man unit of single wound models on my side, he gets 5 points. Difference being, if you kill the general, then all your points get doubled. So he was able to take down the Glotkin, and so it was just a runaway victory. Once you double stuff, it gets kind of out of hand. That's one that I'm not too keen on that one. But it was a lot of fun. It was a fun game. I had a great night with him, and so biggest takeaways were not so much from gameplay. He also had the ruse card where you do ambush, where like you get to redeploy 3 units, and like with Slaanesh, and they're kind of mad speed. Like I didn't even move half my army because they were already engaged turn 1. So, and he kind of admitted that. He's like, that is the single ruse card that makes Slaanesh like just damn near unbeatable. Yeah. So I mean, it was a fun time. I would say it was a great chance for me to put the new warrior stuff on the table and kind of see in practice. It's easy to get kind of, in your brain in the dojo and everything works perfectly, and then you actually put on the table and things don't work out so well. So strong practical experience with those things, and I enjoyed that. Kind of takeaways I learned, and if you are a fill in the blank demon player or Slaves to Darkness guy, like leave the comments down below. I'd love to hear synergies so that really work for you and get results. The Fleshy Abundance spell from the Glotkin, giving any unit that you choose +1 wounds for basically a turn. Amazing on Marauders. When you can throw a unit of Marauders up front, and they took the Demonette charge, 30 Demonettes on the chin like champions. Because Demonettes are pretty inaccurate. They do 4 up, 4 up. But they have a rend of 1, which means I got no save. Marauders have a save of 6. The fact that unit pretty much just took it because they have double wounds. It's a 40 wound unit based on 20 guys because of that spell. That kind of proved to me that Fleshy Abundance spell is, first of all, amazing, and second, it is freaking cool and it's money on cheap chaff units. I think they'd go really well with Clan Pestilence too, honestly. I mean, if that's something that you're into, because those guys can wreck some real face, and if you can give those rats a second turn, to stay alive, that's more than they were gonna ever have before. So yeah, I mean, for tying units up, I think it was far more than I expected it to do. Other things I learned. The Glotkin is not a melee beast like I thought he was. You look on paper at what he can do. First of all, he has this gun that is like the mother of all guns. It's incredible. It never really goes off. Slaanesh has some accuracy modifiers, like debuffs. And so between that and some rules in the scenario, it just never went off, but I pay points for it. So, in melee, Slaanesh also has melee debuffs as well to hit rolls. I'm sorry, and he just wasn't able to do what he needed to do, and so he took out the Demon Prince, who was very aggressive up front, pretty heftily. He actually blasted him with 2 rounds of Arcane Bolt, and that was awesome. But then, as soon as the Keeper Secrets came close within combat range, he was just done. As far as that, other takeaways. I don't like 5-man units of Chaos Warriors. I want at least 10. I want them to do some real work. I feel like they didn't, just math-wise on the dice rolls and the numbers, I just didn't feel like they were pulling their weight. And that's pretty much it. It was definitely a definite Slaanesh victory. Shook hands, had fun, rolled my Path to Glory army, and had a great time. Another note, if you live in the Seattle, Washington area and want to get a game in, don't hesitate to. I'm not special or above anyone, so if you go over, probably the best way to get a hold of me, if you go to the Facebook page for this, you can direct message the Facebook page, and I'm very responsive there. So it's just because the YouTube Messenger system for personal messages is a little awkward as a content maker, because it's kind of a separate thing from comments, so I don't always see them, but I will get every single Facebook message, so it's an open invitation. Had to leave for a minute. I forgot my glue when I was built my models, and yes, I do use plastic glue. Let's see what else we got. So I did hobby progress, games played. Let's see. Oh yeah, so Malign Portents is going on. That's kind of a big subject. Huge one, actually. So I watched several videos about the release and people's reactions to it. I'm going to say up front, I am super stoked, as most people I think generally are. There was some real salt in the waters when the timer hit 0, and it did feel like, I don't know, one giant announcement to say stay tuned for more, which was kind of sad. I think, if I'm being savagely honest, I think G-Dubs needs maybe a stronger hand maybe an outside mind when it comes to marketing. Not that I'm that person by any stretch of the imagination, but just someone who's not necessarily invested in this particular product, but knows about marketing campaigns and things like that, I think would be a really strong thing, because the problem wasn't that it was a flop. It wasn't. It was a cool way to build hype. I was super excited. I was checking that timer all the time, looking for clues. The problem was that the timer went down. We didn't feel like we got much, but then 2 days later, we got that huge reveal about, it was the big reveal. It happened after the countdown hit 0. I was like, that's strange, right? We got the more details on the actual book itself and how Malign Portents is going to be set in the realm of death, all these various factions, how we know they kind of gave a cool picture that I really enjoyed, where they kind of organized the factions within the Nagash army with the Mortarchs. That's the 3 different Mortarchs, and I was like, well, that's what it should have been when it hit 0. I mean, it's great. I love that they did the countdown thing, and I love that they announced this stuff. I just don't understand why there were 2 different events. So, I mean, just something like that. There was a lot of visceral negativity online, and I only engaged with one guy, and I'm not going to name him. But, generally, I think it was good. As far as people have always asked me, oh, do you know what's going on? Well, I don't know anything. I am a nobody. I'm not a blip on their radar. And so, hey, if you're watching and you want to send me something and include me stuff, hey, go to the Facebook page. But I doubt that'll happen. That's fine. As far as what we do know, let's just try for a second. As far as what we do know, we know it's obviously set in the realm of death. We know that Nagash is constructing something. The video that we saw, it looks like another black pyramid. The black pyramid in the end times was used as a way to funnel and basically siphon death energy. So it could be something where he is trying to, maybe he realized after he got defeated by Archaon, that he can't do it at his own might at that strength level, but maybe if he constructed something that made him more powerful, like a reserve battery or something like that, something that would tilt the scales in his favor, maybe he would have better chances going forward. We can definitely imagine SIgmar trying on some level to bring him back into the fold as far as the Pantheon goes. I think it's not an unreasonable thing. It also gives them a narrative reason to have Stormcast there, which is their main product line. Other factions, the Moon Clan Grot Shaman, way out of left field. I had not expecting that at all, but that was awesome. That made me seriously consider picking up a Moon Clan army, and I was like, well, no, I want to see what happens first, because I don't really care for Squigs. I just care about the Moon Clan Grots, and they alone are not enough to entice me to buy that army, which I think is fair. So I'm going to hold off on that, but it is super exciting to see. And so that gives me a lot of hope for the future. What else? Malign Portents stuff. Like I was talking about the details, not the details, the kind of vagaries that they gave about the actual Nagash book. Very fascinating. I actually am just finishing up the book that just came out recently called Nagash, the Undying King. And if you have not read this stinking book, and you have any interest in a death army, or you're getting excited for death or what might happen, you need to stop what you are doing, maybe after this video, and go listen to that thing, because that is quite possibly my favorite book now. It's not an audiobook, just book in general. And the reason is, I've never read Black Library authors give so much life to some of these characters. The dialogue interplay between Neferata and Archon the Black is just superb. I love every scene that those two are in together. They just make it better. And so, yeah, it's just a cool book. I mean, I have nothing else to say about it. It's just a really stinking cool book. You're introduced to kind of what the realm of death is like. People are always asking for, show me what the average person is like. What is, because we're always shown the Stormcast point of view, but they're demigods. They're not people. What is a free people like? What is, you know what I mean? Fill in the blank of whatever your favorite average Joe is. And they do that. Basically, it follows I think the main character's name is Tamra. I'm trying to make it sound more sci-fi. and she is from a clan called Rictus in the Realm of Death. And kind of you're getting the backstory of what happened to these people, but essentially there used to be a massive clan of like civilization, and they got too big. They tried to rebel against Nagash, and he punished them super hard and shattered this one massive kingdom into 600 like micro clans. Okay, and it's like taking, I don't know, a major metropolitan area like LA, devastating it. So there's just pockets of scavengers and things like that. Sent them back to the Stone Age, and so but they still have that same pride of the people, and they're all trying to coexist and that. So it's kind of cool to set like that. And so the main plot, that's her personal story, but the main plot is that a war host from Nurgle is coming in and trying to invade the realm. They're hunting Nagash, who is still recovering from the blow that he was dealt from Archaon. And so they're trying to locate him through one of his portals that leads to his personal chamber and sanctum. To stop him, the Mortarchs, who are kind of loyal, I mean loyal in the sense that they're still going to try and screw over Nagash when they can, but ultimately they want him to survive. They are trying to defend him, and so what they do is they go around all these clans, kind of collect the ones who are surviving and try to mount a defense at the gate of Nagash's door against this Nurgle invasion. Now, when I say Nurgle invasion, I mean all of Nurgle. There's everything there. If you are a Nurgle fan, you still want to read this book because, and I think I almost want to say it's like maybe a preamble to Malign Portents, where Nurgle, who is obviously coming out pretty soon, is very heavily involved. You have Blight Kings. There's a character who is a herald of Nurgle. Like, they have demons there just all the time. Interesting that they have the demons just kind of permanently manifest rather than what they've usually been, which is they need to be near a portal or a rift or something like that, or source channeled in through sorcery. But they're very stable in this story. So you have demons and Blight Kings. They talk about Beastmen as kind of their vanguard unit to go in first and act as shock troops. If some of the forces of death that they bring back to use as defenders, Flesh Eater courts are definitely in there, and they're awesome. Nagash summons like undead ogres to go defend him, which is like super legit. What else was there? Bone giants, all kinds of cool stuff. Everything that you want to read about when death is fighting Nurgle on both sides of those equations is in this book. So Nagash, Undying King, love it. Go read it. It's the best thing ever. So fanboy mode off. Back to Malign Portents, as I was talking about. So I do think that book, which is important, is sort of like a preamble to Malign Portents, in the sense that it seems to introduce all the major players that are going to be involved. Obviously you have Death, but you also have the Mortarchs, which is just as important to bring up, since they're going to have, I think, a more defined role within the army, which is nice, because right now they're just like, you can take a bunch of Death stuff, and there's some characters, but I think looking at the way just that book structured it with, like, here's Nagash, and here's 3 Mortarchs, and here's, like, they have forces. Each one of them has a force. I want that to happen, right? I want, like, this is Archaon's people. Archaon is one of the most fascinating characters in the lore. I'm waiting to do a video about him until the new book comes out, because I want to see what they kind of include. There are some things in the new Nagash book that I was just talking about that are very different from Old World lore. I won't spoil them for you, but man, they're going some cool directions. I'm just going to say that. I'm going to do the video later on, and I'll spoil it there. But they got some cool stuff going on. As far as Malign Portents itself, what we know there's getting some model releases. There's 1 champion per faction. We don't quite know how they're going to pan out in terms of rules and things like that. So, for example, like the War Queen for Slaves to Darkness, who I intend to buy because I just went through all this Slaves to Darkness stuff. She seems super legit. I assume she's going to be Slaves to Darkness. I don't actually know. But, it's cool. I'm excited. I'm having a great time. But as far as the other ones, like, we know, obviously, one looks very particularly Moon Clan Grati, which is awesome. But we don't know how that's going to play out in terms of, like, working with other factions who aren't Moon Clan Grots. Like, No, I'm sure he will work with destruction, obviously, but I more mean like, what kind of benefits is he really going to offer factions who aren't Moonclan Grots? And I think that's a very fair question that a lot of people are wondering, because they made the heroes very specific, right? Like having the Chaos champion be Slaves to Darkness makes perfect sense, because Slaves to Darkness work with everyone. Like I said, it's a very diverse army. It could be a lot of things, and you can have why can't the War Queen be working with followers of Nurgle / Slaanesh / you know what I mean? Like, that makes sense. The Destruction one being a Moonclan Grot, person, doesn't be necessarily a Grot, is an interesting choice, because they're kind of the smallest one. Definitely one of the more beloved factions, I would say. But yeah, interesting choice. And then obviously the Order hero being a Stormcast guy. I wish they had made a bold choice and gone for like a Free Guild guy who would have really revitalized that section of the army. But I get it. Gotta sell those gold boys. Let's see, it's those three. And then the Death guy, we don't know anything about him, but he looks cool. I like him. So yeah, I worry that they're going to be a little too specific to each faction. I don't want, for example, let's pick on the Death guy. I don't want the Death guy to just be Night Haunt. I want him to do things for everyone. Maybe, I don't know. But then you get in the Flesh Eater Courts, and you're like, well, they're not really ethereal like he is. So maybe it'd be okay to not do something for them. I don't know. It's rough. Because you want stuff that represents each Grand Alliance, but, rules-wise, rubber has to hit the road, and you don't want them to just, be the only things you see on the table. All that to say, each model is absolutely stellar. Both technically in terms of detail, and then just representing whatever micro faction they're a part of. This guy's just drawing here, in case you're wondering if I'm just sitting here doing nothing. So yeah, they offer a lot just visually, and I just think that is the coolest thing ever. More important stuff. Oh, actually, if you go to that Malign Portents site, I meant to bring this up, and I did post it on the Facebook page. If you go there, the single coolest thing that they have done throughout this entire thing, whether you think that the countdown thing was a flop or not, I don't really care. The single coolest thing that they have done is this video where parts of the design team got together and talked about what the realms are actually like, in terms of he did a cool video where just kind of said, it actually had a cool little video graphic diagram of what the realm's like in relation to one another. Like, their discs kind of hovering around each other, that when the realm of light is showing its daytime in the realms, when the realm of shadow is showing its darkness, and what? That's so cool. I'll leave a link to that in the show notes for this guy. It is probably the most anticipated video ever. And by that I mean, we've been wanting answers to those kinds of questions since 2015. At least I have, for sure. Because, people come to this channel all the time. Hey, what are the realms actually like? I wish I could tell you, because the design team hasn't told us. I actually have a video called Introduction to Mortal Realms, where I just talk about, from there up until then, everyone's best guess. But now it's a little outdated. We have a much clearer picture now about that. I won't say it's wrong, but we do have a clearer picture. And so, I wish they had done that earlier, but hey, you know what? They did it now, and that's awesome. I can't ask for more than that. I think it definitely solidifies kind of what the realm is supposed to be like, and I think that only adds to the enjoyment. People are so desperate for lore content right now. 1 second. Drop shoulder pad. Always drop shoulder pads. Because I think we're past the point of just being mad about Age of Sigmar as a community. I say as a bunch of gamers, but as a community, we're past that. And I think for many of us who are legitimately interested in playing the game, there's just things that we don't understand, because when the game came out, it was so abstract. But I think we're at a point now where we're curious, we're not mad about it, let's just actually learn something. Invite me into this world that you've created. And this video, I think, was a huge win in doing that. Boom, it's like that. I got a Chaos Knight. Let's see him here. I'm going for the axes because I think they look super baller. But, yeah. No, I dig it. he's beefier than I thought he was going to be. I don't know. Maybe, I haven't seen these guys in a long, long time. The guy I played Warhammer Fantasy Battles with back in the day was a big Lizardmen player. So that's super legit. As far as last thing on the Malign Portents, I'm just kind of in it with everyone else, just waiting for more information. Wasn't super stoked about the countdown timer information release, but hey, it's whatever. I'm in it to win it. I'm like I said, I have money set aside already for when the book comes out. The second I know something, you all know something, and so just kind of keep plugging away till then. I think when that book comes out, I'm probably going to take a week and just do lore videos of just like, here's everything that I can glean from this tome, because people are so anxious, and not anxious, but really just excited is the key word. Just excited for it. And the last thing I want to talk about here is doing Path to Glory. Now, I never actually did a full Path to Glory review. I should probably rectify that, to be perfectly honest with you. As I said earlier, my friends and I decided to do one just to mix things up, kind of motivate us to paint, and also kind of focus in what we're painting. Obviously, I'm doing Slaves to Darkness with Path to Glory, and you have to choose your allegiance at the beginning for that if you're doing Slaves to Darkness. So I went with Tzeentch. No particular reason. I know from the Manticore kit, I wanted to build the Sorcerer on a Manticore. I was like, oh, well, if you're building the Sorcerer, do something cool with Tzeentch. So that's kind of the plan there. What else? So yeah, my army as I rolled it is Sorcerer Lord on a Manticore, 20 Marauders, and 5 Chaos Knights. It's relatively elite. I was really afraid of getting 20 Marauders. That would be just a buttload of work to do before I got our games going. My group, we largely play it painted. We're not, sticklers for that. We just really enjoy all aspects of the hobby. We think it looks great. This coming year, I'm excited to do my good friend Mark, who is on YouTube and does, I believe his account name is Televided. He's looking to do battle reports, and so I am extremely excited to join him in that. If I do, I'll create a playlist on this channel that links to them, so then when I talk about them in this series, you'll be able to reference those. So that's really exciting. Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we're going to play some games here pretty soon. To get this force started, built, painted, and just really looking forward to it. I've never done a Path to Glory campaign. I did something, what's the escalation thing called? Maybe, no, it is Path to Glory. They use Path to Glory in 40k as well. I did a 40k one with a Chaos Lord. I forgot about that. And just kept rolling cultists. Just drowning in cultists. I was like, no, no more. So that's why I opted to use 2 of my rolls to get the elite section, because I was just like, nope. So yeah, really excited about that. I'm not sure how that army's going to work in the beginning. I'm sure all my other people who are playing in my group feel the same way, where it's like the Chaos Sorcerer on a Manticore is not super stellar as a sorcerer. He has to be sort of aggressive to kind of pull his weight. And what else? 20 Marauders. He doesn't have the Fleshy Abundance spell like from the Glotkin, which would be so good. That's my favorite spell so far in the game. I don't know why. I just love it. What else? The Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights are just legit. If I had picked a normal sorcerer, I think they would have been better, because he can give them one heck of a buff with his unique spell. But, as is, the Knights are going to do great. They're probably going to do most of the work for the army, and then kind of do a 1-2 punch with those, and probably just swarm whatever's left with Marauders. Is kind of, I think, how it's going to go. The Sorcerer and Manticore gets 1 spell, so probably do... he has a unique one that can do some good damage. I in theory, I've never actually rolled it, so we'll see how it goes. It's one of those ones where, like, it costs 7 to cast, and then you look at the die and see what you actually rolled, and that's how many dice you roll, and on a 4-up, each one of those does something. And so it's one of those things where it's like, if I roll, the worst you can roll is a 7 and still cast successfully. And it's like you roll 7 die at that point, and 5s and 6s each do damage. It's like, well, I don't like the randomness of that. I mean, I know that's what Chaos is all about, but man, Arcane Bolt is much more consistent. So we'll see. I'll play a few games and I'll report back. And with this guy done, successfully clipped, cleaned, and glued together, that's going to conclude our first While You Were Reforging. So if you have any ideas about the show, how you want it formatted, I'm really open to anything. This is just an open discussion type thing. I just kind of wanted to put more content out there, and this is very, very doable for me, and I hope it's enjoyable for you. If you have a moment, go ahead, click subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Give me a question. I don't care if they're personal, about my life, my hobby, my business, whatever you want to do. I'm really very transparent person, as long as they're appropriate and relevant and things like that. I'm also really open to any suggestions on how to format, like, start with hobby progress and then go into games played and then Q&A and then topic, or something like that. List out to me what you would like to see in a show, and we'll work it out. Until the next time you die in battle and then are reforged, this is Doug with 2+ Stuff. Thank you so much for watching, and happy wargaming.